What is up, everybody? DanDanTheFireman here. Today we're going to be focusing on situational awareness, some braking skills, picking out different patterns so we can see things well ahead enough of time. I think that's how you say it. Anyways, I know a lot of you guys are brand new riders, never been riding, or have only been riding for maybe a year. And I was able to get that information because you guys participated in the poll. I really appreciate it. It allows me to know who I'm talking to. And with that said, though, we are doing a motorcycle giveaway. We're giving away a 2019 Honda CBR 300R with ABS. So we're going to talk a little bit about braking and ABS. Make sure you check it out. Link will be in the description. I'll talk a little bit more later. But let's jump into this first one and learn as much as possible from it.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Yes, please. Yes, please.
All right, so this first one was a little interesting. It looks a lot like Phoenix, to be quite honest. It looks like it's in Arizona. But anyways, this is going to be on an interstate. We are in the HOV lane, so it's motorcyclists, and you have to follow the rules. Anyways, we're going to move forward just a little bit here. And he's going at a pretty decent speed. As he's going highway speeds, and that's what you want to do. Obviously, you want to go with the flow of traffic, but I'm going to scroll back just a little bit more. And this is a very good space cushion. I want you guys to understand this is a very good space cushion. So this is what I want you guys to be having when you're out on the road, whether you're on the interstate or even in town. I like to have a big space cushion just in case something happens, okay? So I just want to point that out. Make sure you have a good space cushion. That way you have enough stopping distance. That way you have enough room for swerves and a few other things. Now, right here, why are people applying the brakes? Okay, so this is one of those uncommon things in a common situation. People apply the brakes on the interstate for multiple reasons. Maybe they're slowing down to merge lanes. Maybe they're slowing down because there's something happening up ahead. And if it's typically just one person applying the brakes, they're making that decision. If there's a bunch of people across the whole path right here applying the brakes, more than likely there's a huge incident and you should be slowing down too. Brake lights are a good clue that this person up ahead in the truck is making a decision. We don't know what that decision is yet because we don't see it and we're not close enough. So right here, he's still making a decision, Now there's the secondary brake right here, and this is where you should start being concerned. And it looks like the rider is a little concerned. You actually see his right hand. So he goes from having his hand on the throttle to reaching for that front brake and slowing down. So he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. This is what I like about it, is that he sees the space cushion starting to close because he's getting closer and closer and closer to the vehicle in front. So he's going into orange stage, and he's actually applying some braking pressure to kind of, ease it off a little bit, still maintain that space cushion. Absolutely good job there. So he's going to be moving forward a little bit. Okay, they released the brakes. Now they're back on the brakes, and you see that front end dive just a little bit. The truck is like this, and then it's going to dive down a little bit. So that means that truck is really applying the brakes, and that should give you a huge concern. So at this point, you need to start finding your escape paths. Okay, you barely have anything on the left. You might be able to make it. Not the best choice. You could lane filter right on that white line. Now, that's also not the best choice, especially if you are going to be applying the brakes or then having to swerve again. So right here, you definitely need to be practicing your progressive brake pressure. I talk about that in one of my previous videos where you can actually go out and practice your progressive brake pressure. And that's going to translate into emergency braking. You're just going to do it quicker and quicker and quicker with emergency braking. So moving forward just a little bit more, and that is why right there that this truck was slamming the brakes. Maybe they were white stage, maybe they weren't paying attention and the vehicle in front of them slammed the brakes and the last second they did, but this is why we need to have a good space cushion. So right here, we need to start applying those brakes faster and faster and faster and faster. We're not smashing it or grabbing, we're squeeze a little bit more and more and more and more until we really get a lot of weight on that front tire and you're able to stop. And like I said, I talk about that. Link will be in the description for that video. Yeah, this is 7th Street, 7th Avenue. So, okay, so this is Phoenix right here. I think I know exactly where this is at. So right here, we should be slowing down. We should be stopping. It's very hard to stop, especially at interstate speeds. So at some point, you're going to have to make a decision. Am I going to stop in time? And if it's a no, you need to find an escape path. You need to find a spot where you can navigate that motorcycle into. The needle, you're threading that needle basically. And where's that needle that we have? We have a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left around this truck. Hopefully that truck's going to maintain that position, but we're in a bad spot. We have to do as much as possible. So he's going to go and go and go and hit the back of the vehicle. Now, this is better than hitting the back of the vehicle going 70 or 80 miles an hour. Now, it's not the best thing ever because you don't want to hurt your baby, you don't want to hurt you, and you're really going to damage that bike and maybe damage your left hand, possible injuries to the left side of your body, extremities, maybe you hit your head. Not good overall, but it's better than smashing into the back of this vehicle at 70, 80 miles an hour. That's what I want to take away from this. Sometimes you just cannot avoid an incident. And that's why we utilize the smart rider principles. And you need to be able to get gear, acquire personal protective equipment for yourself. And you know what? On top of that, for your bike, get some sliders, get some engine guards, get some stuff to protect the bike in case of a low side or anything that won't, obviously do this. Okay, so this right here, sliders aren't going to help. It's going to smash everything anyways. That looks like it might be armored jeans. You can kind of see a lump. Hopefully that's not a broken bone because of deformity, but it's probably armor. Those look like actual moto boots, to be quite honest. But the thing is, I don't know. Either way, wear full gear. It looks like he is. So hopefully injuries are minimized. People did come by and they did offer help and call 911, and it sounded like he needed it. He was a little upset afterwards, but that's the adrenaline moving. So at the end of the day, be situationally aware. Practice those brakings, practice the swerves, practice searching for escape routes, wear full gear in case you can't do nothing or just the situation kind of screwed you over. And then hopefully if you're riding with a buddy, they're medically trained, they can hopefully help you out. And then if you have all this knowledge, you're prepared, you're like, okay, I feel good. How about you go ahead and help somebody else out that might not know what they're doing, okay? That's part of the smart rider principles. With that said, let's move on to the next one and see what happens. So once again, we're focused on the situational awareness, and if you're situationally aware, you should know that we do have that motorcycle giveaway. So how you sign up is by joining patreon.com/DanDanTheFireman. You have tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. Each one of them, you're going to get my ebook for free, the Beginner's Guide to Motorcycle Riding, but then you're also going to get entries into the giveaway. Now, the rules and everything, the terms and conditions, all that stuff is on my website, DDFMcrew.com. All those links are going to be in the description in the first comment also. And the thing is, on that website, you get free training and you get all the rules. You get to figure out how you can enter for free on top of being a patron and then doing it that way. So there's a bunch of cool things that are involved in that. We're giving it away. We're going to announce the winners in October. So you have plenty of time to sign up. So do so now so you can accumulate more and more and more entries. So with that said, let's go ahead and move into this. Now, there was some context. He says his injuries involved a sore, lightly sprained thumb. So we talk about skier's thumb all the time, some scraping on his left knee, and he says that's it. So he got extremely lucky, especially with the lack of gear. It could have been a lot worse, so be very careful out there. Now, the damage to the bike was a little more extensive. He says all the plastics were pretty much destroyed. Some of the radiator fluid leaked out, and he said that's pretty much it. No frame damage, no tank damage, no tail damage, no fork damage. He said he even was able to ride it around in the parking lot before giving it to 904 Performance. I'm guessing that's where he got it fixed. He said ultimately the black F-150 was found at fault and was cited. No injuries in the vehicle. He was lucky, and so was his bike, to be somewhat damaged, but not bad and permanent. He wants to make sure everybody understands, be as visible as possible. Make sure that the car drivers are keeping an eye out for everybody. But that's what he's saying, and we're going to move into what I think and then what we can learn from this. So moving forward right here, he's going a little bit fast around this area. Now, I understand all these people in line are wanting to turn left into that. Who knows? Maybe somebody's impatient and wants to come into your lane because it's open. Said, screw this. I'm just going to go home. I'm tired of waiting. I'm having a bad day. The kids are yelling at me. Screw you kids. Let's go. I'm done. Stop kicking the back of my chair. Who knows what's happening? that could be what's going on. But this is why I want you to be very careful around going past vehicles that are stacked up like this. Who knows if they're going to merge into your lane without checking because they're pissed or whatever it is. And this is why it's a pattern to me to make sure to be in orange stage when you're around this area. So that means you don't speed. That means you are ready to act. That means you're ready to do something outside of brown stage. So we're going to move forward a little bit. And this is what I'm talking about right here. So you got a lot of vehicles, a lot of vehicles, a lot of vehicles. Now, I see an intersection coming up, and I'm typically in orange stage every time I go to an intersection, but I should be in orange stage anyways. So that means I'm not going to speed through this intersection, especially since it's going to be a blind area. Now, left turners are the ones that kill a lot of motorcyclists in intersections. So that's my biggest fear when I'm going to an intersection. And right here, I can't see anything around all these vehicles. That, to me, is a big problem. I need to be able to see, and if I can't see, I'm going to slow it down like I'm going through a haunted house. I'm not running around corners in a haunted house because I don't want nobody to scare me. I'm going to put my kid in front so they get scared and I can laugh. But I'm not going to be running around. I'm going to take it nice and easy and creep around, okay? That's how I treat this right here. I'm going to treat this like I'm creeping around a haunted house corner. What is around there? I'm going to slow it down, ready to act, get an elbow into that, scary clown with a fake chainsaw. So that's what I'm going to be doing here, and boom, there it is. No time to react. We're going too fast, not enough stopping distance. Where are we going to swerve? Can't swerve left. We're going to swerve right where the gap is closing. It's just all these big problems. And the one thing that we can definitely do before we even get to this point is just slow it down. Go into orange stage. Intersections are dangerous places for motorcyclists. Why are we hauling ass through it? Now, this is going to be either a mistake or maybe it wasn't a big deal for him. At the end of the day, all I'm trying to say is that this is a possible factor. Too fast for the environment. It could be 50, 55 speed limit in this area, but too fast for the environment. Something new, something uncommon. A bunch of people lined up. Usually not this many people lined up. All these different reasons. So be very careful. And if something does happen, if you're ever in this position and you accidentally did it, hopefully you have full gear. Luckily, he was fine, but I've seen some people with full gear still have massive injuries, and some people with no gear have no injuries. It's weird how it works, but you still are going to have a better chance with full gear. So he's going to move forward right here, and he's not going to be able to stop in time. You see that right hand? So about right here, he's going to perceive an incident. He's going to react to it right there. There's the reaction. And the moment he squeezes, this is where we have braking distance out of the total stopping distance. So braking distance is not enough for this speed. It really isn't. So you're either going to have to brake, then swerve, or swerve, then brake, or just swerve, or just brake, and hopefully you make it. So he's going to just brake, and it's not going to be enough. You're still sliding. And there it is. Just barely tippity tapped that rear side. Now imagine if we were going 5 miles less, 5 miles an hour less than this. Maybe this would have been a close call. So if we could just remove that one factor, I like the fact that he didn't dump the bike when he braked. So maybe his braking was good. It's just that the total stopping distance wasn't enough. So imagine if we slowed it down just 5 miles an hour. Just 5 miles an hour. Could have made it through that. And then hopefully, afterwards, if you made it through it with the 5 miles an hour or less, you'd think to yourself, okay, next time, what happened? What did I do? What did I do wrong? What did I do right? Okay, 5 miles an hour or less, good. That was great. I need to practice my braking. I need to practice my vision. I need to practice this because that was too close for me. But, hopefully he's going to be doing fine now. And that's what we're doing. We're learning from this incident. So slow it down just a little bit. Especially if you can't see, because, if you can't see them, they can't see you, and they especially can't see you. Trust me, we're invisible to them. And I'll be talking about that in a future video about why people can't see us. It's the recency illusion. It's the inattentional blindness, the motion-induced blindness, all these different things, the frequency illusion. I could talk more about it, but I won't do that today. I just want to make sure you guys see this and understand we need to be extremely safe. We need to be paying attention. We need to be situationally aware. We need to practice our fundamental skills, physical and mental. We need to get gear. Be a smart rider, everybody. Okay, I'll see you guys later.